You've seen me battered, bruised, but you've seen me battered, bruised, but never broken through the fire. Hope still spoken. There's a strength inside me that keeps me strong. So I'll keep pushing, I'll keep holding on. Through it all, I won't fall. I've got power, standing tall. Battered, bruised, but not broken. I'm unshaken, still unshaken.
Welcome to season 9 of Battered Bruised, Not Broken. And we are on our final episode here tonight. I'm so excited to have you here with us wherever you're tuning in from. I want you to go right ahead and just drop something in the chat for me tonight and let us know where you're watching from. We're excited to have you here with us tonight because guess what? We have another woman in the room. Another powerful woman is here tonight to share her story with us. And I'm excited. I can't wait to introduce her to you. And so without further ado, I'm not going to hold her back any longer because I know she's pumped, she's excited, and she is ready to share with you tonight. So let's get ready to introduce to you none other than my guest for tonight, Sasha. Sasha, welcome. How are you tonight?
Thank you for having me. I am blessed and highly favored. I'm giving God thanks, Kimisha. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Awesome. And it's definitely a pleasure to have you with us here tonight, especially to finish off this season. And so, Sasha, they're pumped, they're excited, they're eager to hear your story. But before we get started with your story, we want to definitely start, by asking us this question. Tell us a little bit more about who is Sasha and what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Sasha Gaye-Mctaggart-Francis. By profession, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a travel business owner. I book local and international trips. I do visa applications as well. I also empower persons who would like to become travel business owners. If they want to start their own business, it's a part of my business to get you started. I am also a transformational coach. I'm an author. I am a trainer specializing in customer service because I have worked in customer service for over 20 years. Actually, this year, I had given up my 9 to 5 in banking. After 13 years working in banking, I am now a full-time entrepreneur since this year. I am a Christian and a member of the New Testament Church of God. And at church, I hold several hats. So at church, I'm an events coordinator for a scholarship fund. I am a couples ministry leader, a fasting leader, and a finance clerk. I have been married for 9 years. I love to travel. I love to see people win. And I just love loving God. That is me in a nutshell.
Wow, beautiful. It's so amazing how you just let it roll off your tongue. Like I just do a few things. But where do you find the time, Sasha, to do all of that stuff? That's a lot. Where do you find the time to do that?
With God, all things are possible, Kimisha. So he has been the one that has blessed me with this vision and blessed me with the talents that I have. And so it's all about priority. It's all about, living in your purpose and doing what makes you happy. I can now say that I am doing what makes me happy. And I give God thanks for that, because that wasn't the case at all times. So once it is that you are doing the will of God and you are doing what makes you happy, you will prioritize and you will do what is necessary.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, it's a beautiful thing when you can do what you love, because you know that you're going
Yeah.
to get peace from that, and not only will you get peace, but you also get some level of fulfillment as well. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know, as we continue and we're talking, like I said, they're at the edge of their seats and they're waiting. They can't wait to hear, you know, what is it that she has to share? What is it is she going to share with us here tonight? And so let's start from the beginning. I want you to tell us where it all started for Sasha. Tell us where it all started for you.
Okay. So I didn't mention, but I am a Jamaican. So for those who don't know, I know this is an international platform. So I am a Jamaican. I reside in Kingston, Jamaica. And the episode is all about battered, bruised, but not broken. So we want to talk about, whatever adversity that I had to go through and how I overcome it. And I am happy to share that with you all this evening. And, you know, my story of adversity, it started from when I was a young child, growing up in a community that it was filled with violence and restrictions. And, it was actually as an adult that I realized that most of my goals, it was fueled on me wanting to leave something, wanting me to leave a location or leave an institution. It's as if I couldn't find any real satisfaction or contentment. So most of my life, I just wanted to leave a situation. So I was just doing what is necessary to survive, Kimisha. So as a child, I did what I was told. I've never been beaten. I don't know how, other nationalities, but in Jamaica, they love to beat children if you're rude. But I will say that I have never been beaten as a child. I've never gotten in any trouble at school. As I said, my childhood was filled with a lot of restrictions. I grew up as an only child for about 13 years on my mother's side. On my father's side, I have many siblings, but we weren't close. And then the community that I lived at, as I said, it was very unstable. So anytime a war can start, and your movements is restricted, you can't take the same route that you would take to go about your business. And so we were always on edge. We were always on edge, and you have to be prepared. Sometimes you walk with your little um underwear because you might not go home. You might get a call to say it's too hot now, too much violence, so stay by auntie so and so or stay somewhere else. So that was what we had to endure growing up in communities like that. They call it the inner city communities in Jamaica. And so my family, because of that, they just let me mostly stay inside. So I didn't really go out in the community and socialize. It was just home to school, school to church. That was it. And I had friends at school though, and the church that I attended, they always have events. So I always wanted to go. But, as I said, because of the instability of the community, and then my family just wanting to protect you, keep you in. So I didn't have that freedom to just go anywhere I want to go. I did go out, but there were many times that some plans got canceled because of what was happening. And for those reasons, I really wanted to leave home. I said, boy, I must move out of this place. So every day at home, I was telling them that I'm going to move out. I'm not staying here, and then I'm going to move out when I reach 18. Because, when we're younger, everything we're going to do at age 18. So I was saying I'm going to move out at age 18. And they taunted me and troubled me in the house till all when my brother was growing up. and he was learning to speak, they would ask him, when your sister going to move out? And he would say June 29, 2006. I mean, he could sing it because of how much I sang it in the house, and so I didn't like being at home, and every day I said I'm going to leave, and then when it comes to church, I didn't like church either, Kimisha. I did not like going to church. I was forced to go to church every Sunday. So they force, as parents in the Jamaican culture, a lot of times the parents don't go to church, but they send the children to church. And so it was the same with me. I was forced to go to church. I went to church with my aunt. But why I never liked church, it wasn't because of what was happening at church. It was really just the route to go to church, because the church was in downtown Kingston. It wasn't in the same area that I lived. So we had to take a bus to go downtown. And then when I came off the bus at town, there's about a 10 to 15 minutes walk before you reach the church. And then the route to the church, there is a fish market and there is a food market. And if you know anything about markets, sometimes it's not really a pleasant smell, and especially with the fish. So sometimes you see the dirty water. So you had to walk through all of that. And then I am a girl, I like to dress up. I like looking good. I like to dress up. And so I was just saying to myself as a young girl, why a nice girl like me have to be walking through all of this muck, all of this stinkness, to reach a church? Because there's a lot of churches in Jamaica. And so I didn't want to go. And I said to them that, well, not always forcing me to come here. I don't like it here. I don't want to go there. And I was telling them as well that when I reach 18, I'm gonna stop coming here. And they can't force me to do this anymore because I'm now an adult. And as usual, they laugh at me. But it was so funny because it was at age 18 that I actually got baptized. And it was at age 18 that I became a member of the very same church that I say are leaving. So God's plan was higher than my plan. And then now, when it comes to school, never like go school either. I think the only school that I liked was basic school and primary school, no problems. But when it comes to secondary school and to tertiary school, boy, it was rough for me. And I wanted desperately to leave as well. But I stayed because I chose the path of education to take me out of all the unpleasant situations that I was in. So I knew that education was the key. So even though I hated school, I wasn't going to drop out of school. And then, as I tell you how my family operates, they force you to do certain things, whether you like it or not. But I was a good student from basic school straight up to secondary school, even reach honor rolls. But you see, when I started university up by I was introduced to some extreme levels of failure. I got some grades that I didn't even know existed. I got -3%, -20%, 0%. I have never experienced those things before. And in my first semester at I failed every single course. So university made me feel stupid and inferior. And so naturally, you wouldn't want to go back to a place like that, and I was just determined, say, this place is not for me. I'm gonna drop out, and when I made that decision, I went outside and I was standing by my neighbor's wall and I was crying and I was saying, boy, why is it that I spend so much money and to just be this utter failure? Because I was just always thinking about the money, saying, because university is a lot of money, and to see that I am a failure at it, and I was just crying. And my aunt, she's no longer with us. She passed away, but she was the one that came to me and she was trying to encourage me, and she was saying I can't drop out. And I was saying to her, explaining the whole situation to her, and she was saying that I am going to be the first woman in the family to have completed university. And I'm saying to her, how can I be the first woman to have completed university when I am failing so much and I am not going to go back? So how is that going to be possible? And she was saying to me that she has cancer. I'm going to tell you what she said. She said, I have cancer, Sasha, as you know, and I don't have much time to live. And I want, before I die, to see you graduate from university. And she said, this will be your gift to me. And I'm saying, wow, you're serious? What a thing to say to me. And I'm saying, what a cruel woman. Why would you say that to me? And she's saying, yes, I'm serious. And I said, why? I said, okay, I will go back. So it was cruel, but it worked. She made me go back. And I went back, and I didn't fail as much. There was still a little failure here and there, semester 2 and 3, but it was still rough. But I was under a lot of stress while attending UWI. So at UWI, I went there part time as a science student, but being there part time is not really part time, because as a science student, you have to do labs for persons who do science, and the labs were at set time. So it's not a case where they had a lab in the morning and a lab in the evening. So I had to reach the school at lab times. So even though they said on paper that I was a part-time student, I really wasn't a part-time student. And I also worked while going to school, and I was active in my church. So I was doing a lot of things while going to university. And maybe all of that stress and all of those things really contributed to the failures, but I wasn't born in wealth. And so I had to do my part. I had to still work. My family helped me out, yes, with tuitions, but I wanted to play my part, do my job to get some money to help out. And so I did that. And even though I went through all of that, the funny thing about it, what I was studying at UWI, it really wasn't something that I was passionate about, because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was younger. But as I said, my family say you're going to school. So they say, go on a university, just go pick something, because you have to go to school. There's a word in Jamaica where them say you're not turn no cruff, which basically say you're not going to be worthless, or you're not going to take up violence, or you're not going to be a victim of teenage pregnancy, all of that. So they didn't want that status quo for me. So that's why they say go to school, go to UWI. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be, but I still picked something and I went up there. So to be going through all of this stress for something that, it's just a degree I was doing, it was hurtful as well, but I continued. And would you believe that in year 2, the same thing happened, where I failed every single course again in semester 1. And this time I say, Sasha, certain things have to change. And so I said, let me drop one of the jobs, because I had 2 jobs. So I dropped one of the jobs, and I went to my church and I said, I'm going to drop a few responsibilities here. And I dropped a few, and it did help somewhat, but I was still under the stress, and the failures in between were still there. And while under the stress, while I was attending school, I started getting some thoughts that I knew was not of God. And I started, even thoughts of suicide, which I know I'm not a suicidal person. So I know who I am. But, when the pressure hits you, some thoughts came to me. I hear it loud as day. And I know, so this is not me. this is not me at all. And I started even seeing some things. I'm gonna say this sound like this place is madding me, and I said, mm-mm. And at that time, I said, this is it. So I dropped out. So even though my aunt, she said whatever, but I made a personal promise to myself from I was younger, even till now, that I'm not gonna be mad. So once it is that I see that I'm close to madness, I'm just gonna drop everything and just move away because I must die in my right mind. And so I left school. I left UWI and I never write any letter. I just stop go. I just stop go. I just never go back the next day. And while I was on the break, I actually went to a different school and I pursued an associate degree in food and beverage management. And I was like, boy, I really love schooling because I leave there, sir, and instead I'm just resting. I find a different school and I finished that. And then after I finished that, no, because I didn't have any intention to go back to UWI, none at all, because I said I don't like how I feel when I'm there. And it was when I was in the supermarket, I saw my vice principal for my high school, the high school that I went, and she was asking me how was Yui, and I told her that I drop out. It was just too stressful, and I am not going back there. And she was saying to me that I must ensure that I finish whatever I start. So even though it was stressful, she said, think about it. Think about it. You already spent all of that money, so why not finish? You know? And with a heavy heart, I said, okay, I'll think about it. And I went to God and I said, God, you see the amount of stress and failures that I had endured at that place. If I am supposed to go back there, it cannot be the same. It has to be different. So I put God to the test. I said, God, if I am supposed to go back there, one, I'm not supposed to be struggling to find school fee. And this one bag of failing, that cannot happen again. So I'm going to write a letter to the university and tell them that, hey, I took a break. I would love to start back if you would have me. And I said, God, if they accept it, then it means that you are in agreement with our arrangement that things are going to be different. But if it's not going to be so, let them reject me. And when I sent it, they accepted the application. And I said, all right, God, me and you know. So you tell me, say, you're gonna be there with me. And I said, okay, God. And I went back there, and I must tell you that I did see the hands of God on my life. It wasn't smooth sailing, but it was much, much better. I didn't fail anything. Went back and I went through. There was just one course that I had failed 2 times already, and it's that I fail it again. And that was the only course for me to graduate. I go back to God. I say, God, what happened? I told you that this cannot happen. This is unacceptable, God. Unacceptable. And I went to the lecturer's office and I said to the lecturer, sir, this is the only course stopping me from graduating. I need to leave this place. And he said that I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And if you can answer the 3 questions correctly, I'll give you the pass. And I got 2 out of the 3 questions right. And I said, nervous, Lord God, it's only 2 I get right. I get 1 wrong. And he said, you know what? I'm going to give you the pass. And that was it. I finally finished university and I left there with a bachelor's of science in marine biology. When I finished university, I said, okay, now I can get my life in order. Now I can do something what I love, because the work that I was doing, I never love it either. But you do it to pay the bills. And I was saying, as soon as I finish UA, I am going to finish the job. That's what I was saying. But it was furthest from the truth that my life would be sorted out after university, because I knew that I wasn't happy at work. But guess what, Kimisha? I didn't know what I was going to go into. I still did not know what I wanted to do with my life, because remember, I told you that the degree was just a degree. And then in Jamaica, marine biology is not really something that is popular for you to get employment there. So in the banking industry, I was not happy at all. You know, very miserable at work, very unhappy. Um, but what to do but to stay in there, And it started to eat away at me, you know. I felt my soul starting to deteriorate. I saw changes in myself because I wasn't happy. And when you're doing something for such a long time that doesn't bring you joy, it starts to affect you. There's a Jamaican proverb that says, another same day leaf drop a river bottom, it rotten. And that proverb, it means that things can fall apart over time. You may not see the effects immediately, but it will happen. And so I started to see the effects of being in unpleasant situations, being forced to do things that I didn't want to do. It actually reached to a point that I got a panic attack at work. While I was at work, I felt like something was off, and I left from where I was and I went upstairs to a room where it was just me alone. And I didn't even know what a panic attack was at the time. I just know I couldn't breathe properly. And I was just holding my chest, and I was, oh my God. And I called my husband. While I was up there, I called my husband, and he was the one speaking to me through the panic attack. But when that happened, I had a wake up call, and I said I had to do things differently. I can't continue living like this. And so I started to attend women's summits. It was actually your summit that I attended, and I met Dr. Vicky Otaruina, and I booked a couple sessions with Dr. Vicky, and it was those sessions that really revealed my purpose. And I am now walking towards my future. So I'm no longer running from a situation. So, when I was telling you over time, I just want to leave, I want to leave, I want to leave. I am now wanting to move towards a situation and not run away from it. So that is my story. I know it's long, but that is my story, Kimisha.
That's a beautiful story. You see, I love how you in the beginning how you shared with us. You got started. At first, it was something of interest that you wanted to do, but you just kept recognizing, okay, I kept hitting a fail all the time. But even though that was the case, you still pushed through. At some point, yes, as you shared, you thought, well, maybe this might not be for me. Like any right thinking person, was thinking that in a case like that. However, though, you went back. You changed it up, like you said. I love that when you said not only that you went back, but before you went back, you decided to go before God. That was the key thing there, that you decided to go before God and allow Him now to lead the path, and you were able to get to where you wanted to be. But what is also interesting is that as we see that at the end of that, as you finish your studies, I know you have your degree in marine biology, realize, hey, this is not really an area that I can function in. And so you find yourself in another place. What I want to ask, as you would have, you went through those phases because you're still learning, you're growing and stuff. You met Dr. Vicky, and, she helped you to put some things in place so that you can get to the place where you truly wanted to be. Tell us about that process. How did that work for you? What were some of the things that you knew that you learned that you had to now unlearn so that you can get to that place where you needed to be?
Okay. So what I realized in this purpose journey is that your purpose was always in you. So what Dr. Vicky pushed out in me is what was already inside of me. So I was a natural speaker. I had a talent for teaching, but I ran away from it. As I tell you, I like to run apparently, because when I when I was when I was sending out applications to go to university, I sent applications to two universities, UTech and UWI. The UTech application was for a teaching degree, and the UE application was for food chemistry because I said I was going to be a food tester. So I actually started at UWI saying that I'm going to be a food tester, and that's when I failed everything. So I said, chemistry is not me, but I tried. I'm a try. I try, you know. But I got through for UTech first, the teaching degree. But then I said, oh, me not going in a classroom. I can't bother with them picnic children. Well, maybe you don't understand. Jamaican patois. Picnic is children. I said, I can't bother with these children. No classroom. So I when as soon as I get the application to UWI, I just forget about the UTech. I didn't even tell them I'm not going back because I paid money for UTech. And I just went to UE, say I'm gonna be a food tester. And then you see the amount of failures at UE. But I was a natural person to teach, to speak. I like poetry. I like the arts, those things. And it was in the sessions with Dr. Vicky, where she said, what is it that you naturally love to do? She asked me questions that make you think, you know. I appreciated the sessions, and they really opened my eyes. And she's also a woman of God. So it wasn't an ordinary session, she put God into it. And she was revealing things to me that I didn't even reveal to her. Because when she was, listening to everything, my story, and she was saying to me that, that you would be good in couples ministry. Like I seen you speaking to couples, and the story that you have with your husband is powerful. And I was saying to her, but I'm a couples ministry leader at my church for about 6 years now. And she said, really? And I'm saying, yes, I am. And, so she made me realize that, hey, I've been doing things within my purpose. It's just that, when you're focusing on the money, sometimes you have the talents, and you are driven by money. So the banking industry pay you well. So you stay where the money is. But then, as I said, there comes a point when you start feeling low in the spirit. And you said it's not all about the money. Not all about the money. You have to feel fulfilled. You have to be doing something that you love. Because if you constantly do something that makes you unhappy, it will deteriorate you. And that's what it did for me. That's what it did. So I'm happy for what Dr. Vicky had pulled out of me. And, it was because of how impactful her coaching session with me was. That's why I said I want to help persons that may be struggling with transformation. And that's why I decided to become a transformational coach myself, because I see the impact of coaching, real coaching.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love what you said, that she pushed out what was already there. And so she helped you to give birth. She was like the midwife that you needed, that you didn't even recognize that you needed,
Yeah.
to help her bring, bring that purpose into fulfillment. And so it's beautiful to know that, through that you're able to walk that out now. You're able to be in that place where you're passionate, where you're in fulfillment, you're living it out. Tell us about some of the things that you encounter as you're in this journey of really, living life in the way that God has, ordained you to be living. How has the journey been so far?
It's good that you asked that question, Kimisha, because sometimes even when we're living in our purpose, the devil doesn't sleep. He's still out there doing what he's doing, and I was surprised that, when I was working my 9 to 5, there were days where I didn't want to go to work. And then now that I am on this entrepreneurial journey, there's still days that I don't want to go to work. And I find that very surprising because I'm saying, but no, I'm doing what I want to do. Even when I went on vacation, usually when you have your 9 to 5 job and you go on vacation, you don't want to come back to work. Um, And since I go on vacation as an entrepreneur too, I said, boy, if I go back at work, oh. So, you know, and then I started, I was a entrepreneur while I was working my 9 to 5. I did it part time. So I started my travel business 5 years ago. And as I told you, I resigned from my 9 to 5 this year, March this year. So I was doing travel for a while, but I was doing part time. But when I started doing it full time now, I said I'm gonna start having trips, having group trips where I go on the trips with my clients. So usually I plan group trips, yes, but I usually am not the one to go. I just send them. But now, in branching out, I said, let me start, I have the time now to travel more. And so I put together my group trips. So I had one October. Yes, recently I went to Peru and it was a struggle. I mean, a lot of challenges happened, a lot of setbacks, but it was still a great group. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Now, when I am out on my own, you would think it's smooth sailing, but as I said, the devil is still working. And so there were delays at the airport. We ended up going to a different country than we were expected to go. And we as a group, we just took it as an adventure. We just said, listen, sometimes things don't work as how it's supposed to work, but we still enjoyed where we ended up. And it was really just an adventure. And at the end, when we were supposed to come back home, the hurricane prevented us from coming back home. So we had challenges to go and we had challenges to come back home. So we ended up staying there longer than when we were expecting to, because Hurricane Melissa came to Jamaica, so all flights were canceled, and we were in a foreign country for an extra 3 days. Yeah, we were in a foreign country for an extra 3 days, and I'm like, whoa, my first trip, all of these problems, and then I had another group trip, and that other group trip was a headache as well. And I'm saying to God, I was saying to my husband, I said, boy, you're wondering if it's worth it. All of this, is it worth it? Even sometimes before the group trips, sometimes you were saying, boy, I'm going to go back to the work, not the same work that I left, because trust me, I'm not going back there. But, you say, let me go back to find a job. And every time when I said I'm going to go back to find a job, it's like God said to me, no, Sasha, continue in your purpose, continue in your journey. And every time when I said, yes, I'm going, he gives me another vision. He tells me to do something else. So, you know, all of what I was saying, transformational coaching, being an author, being a speaker, all of those things is since this year, because God said, do this, do that, lead this, lead that. And I just obey and I just do what he says that I should do. And so I am even in the process of starting a podcast. And so, as I said, there's a lot of things in my head to do, because he says, do it. And so it's like he's saying, no, don't go back in no workplace. That's not what I would want you to be. That's not where I want you to go. And even though, in the 9 to 5, you make little more money, yeah, man, you make more money. But, I was saying, but God, the money, and he was just saying, haven't I been providing for you? And I'm saying, yes, God, you have been providing, because it's since March that I left my 9 to 5. I know it's November. And every month my bills are paid, and I have food on my table, and I have clothes on my back, and I travel more too. And traveling is not cheap, but I travel, and the Lord, in just 1 year, I've been to 5 countries. 1 year in 5 countries. And it's not money I have, it's just the blessings of God. It's just I use faith. I use faith. So once it is that he tells me to do something, I see it as a partnership. It's me and him. So I said, all right, oh, we're gonna do it. So he is my CEO. And on Wednesdays I go to fasting sessions, because now that I don't have my 9 to 5, I have the time now to go to fasting sessions at my church. And so on Wednesdays I fast, and I use the Wednesdays as my, you can call it my strategy meetings with my CEO. So my fasting sessions on Wednesdays are non-negotiable. So I pray that even in the future, whatever area that he has me to go in, that I can still do my fasting. We can still have our little strategy meetings, as I put it, on a Wednesday.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's beautiful. Having God at the center, it makes a major difference in anything that you do, and that's so beautiful that you have Him right there. And one of the other things that I love to as well, as you shared in your journey, as you are building and stuff, and it's important that persons are reminded of this, because sometimes we just look at the glitz and the glamour. We look at what it looks like on the outside, and sometimes we tell ourselves that looks great. I need to do this, or I want to do this, but we don't stop to think about all of the work that has to happen behind the scenes. And so I love your transparency in sharing that, even as you were walking that out, being the travel agent and going on these trips and stuff, having to encounter all of these challenges, having to know how to pivot, because an entrepreneur needs to know how to pivot. You got to know which foot you're going to use, because it's not going to happen in the way that you thought or the way that you planned that it to happen. What's
Yeah.
going to happen is that you're going to get some curveballs, and you got to know when to turn, when to stand, when to come forward, and what to do. And so I want to thank you for sharing that. Are there any other major takeaways that you can share with us here tonight that you got from just, building your business, and not just building your business, but also building your trust in God to sustain you in your business, because you took a jump. Many persons would have still be on the cliff waiting for someone to come help save them, but you took a jump and you plunged right in the deep to something that that God was already calling you to for such a long time. So, are there any major takeaways that you got from that journey?
What I would say, is the takeaway the same thing that I would give someone advice if it is that they're going through? What is it, the same?
Yes. What takeaways you got that for you, that major for you, impacted you, that can even help someone right now who may be in that same
Yeah.
space? Mhm.
What I would say is, put God to the test. Put God to the test. Let Him prove to you how much He loves you. And I can tell you that He will not fail in proving to you how much He loves you. You know, and you have to take life one step at a time, one day at a time. Trust the process. Wherever He leads you, go. You might feel like you're wasting your time. While I was in UWI, I felt like it was just a waste of time, you know. But what I went through at UWI built me for what I'm going through now. Everything that we go through, it makes us stronger, and it equips us to for the next journey. So whatever it is that you're going through, just trust the process and just trust God. And as I said, put Him to the test. He will prove to you how much He loves you. And to that young girl that may not know what she wants to be, because I was once there, you may not know what you want to do with your life. What I would say to that young person, and even an older person, because sometimes we as adults, we still don't know what we want to be in life. I would say to you, take some time to know your identity. Invest in knowing who you are, and don't let anyone force you to do something just to stay active, just to say, oh, I'm just gonna do this just for doing its sake. No, work in purpose, move in purpose, invest in you, and build on your natural talent. So whatever it is that comes naturally to you, build on that, practice that more, and you will see how your life will unfold just by doing that and trusting the process and trusting God. So that's what I would say, that those are my takeaways, from the journey, from my journey, from my story.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I absolutely love that. As we're getting ready to wrap up soon, but just before we get out of here and we go, I have to ask that question. In that journey that you took, as you shared here with us here tonight, where you talked about, your, plunging into the deep, going into the unknown, where God was calling you and what He was telling you to do. And as you took that plunge, I have to ask this question: did it affect your marriage in any form? Because I'm thinking now you're having to make a decision. You had a stable income that is coming into your 9 to 5. I know you're taking a plunge into the unknown. You may not necessarily have a stable income, or you have an idea, but it's not necessarily stable, which affects the finances of the home. How was that, in making that decision, especially for those who may be watching that may be married and they want to take the step, but financially they know that it's going to put a strain on their husband or on their wife, if you have some men here in the room. How was that for you?
Well, let me be honest. I do have a supportive husband, always supporting me, always, having my back when I was enduring all the hardships at the 9 to 5. He went through it with me, and he knows that I've been wanting to leave for many years. And but he was always saying, Sasha, we can't afford for you to leave at this point. And we are actually in the process of being homeowners, because we still, we're not homeowners. And in our Jamaican climate, from observation, when it is that you want to become a homeowner, they look at where you work. How can you pay me back? And so, even though I was an entrepreneur while working my 9 to 5, I was holding on to the 9 to 5. Say, okay, when the process ends, the whole mortgage process ends, I will leave the 9 to 5. But as I was saying to you, Kimisha, when I noticed that I got a panic attack, I said, I have to do things differently. I can't continue living the way how I'm living. There must be a change. And I was saying to him that, listen, I'm not going to wait until the mortgage process complete. I'm going to leave, because mentally I can't. Because remember, I told you that I made a promise to myself. I'm not going to be mad. I made that promise to myself, and I said, mentally, I can't stay here. And it did cause some vexations. The supportive husband that I have, still love him. But he's a human, and he has weakness just like everybody else. And there was a little bit of upset, and he was saying, "How can you leave? And we're going through a process, and you tell me, say, for entrepreneurs, it's a harder time for us to get a house." And I'm saying, let us trust God. Let us trust God. And it brought me to tears, because I was saying, with marriage, you have ups and downs. And there was a period where, my husband was not financially stable. And I was the one pulling and holding the fort for the marriage. And I was saying, boy, when it comes to my turn, look at what is happening, this argument. And, I felt very hurt. I felt hurt, but I didn't say it to him. I just kept it to myself. And, I went to God and I said, boy, God, look at it. And, the next day, my husband came back to me and he was saying, Sasha, I was wrong. And I'm sorry, because, yes, I was not as supportive as you have been to me when I was going through my thing. He recognized. And let me tell you, ladies who are single, let me put on the couples ministry hat. One of the things that made me choose my husband to be my husband was that he listens. and he's not afraid to admit when he's wrong. That was one of the qualities that I admired. Say, boy, not a lot of men will admit when they are wrong. Not a lot of men is willing to change. And I saw that quality in him from we were dating. And I said, this is a good man. So you can use that, ladies, to say if he's a good man or not. And he came to me and he apologized, and we made up and we are happy now. He is so happy that he wants to leave his 9 to 5 now, he doesn't want to work for anybody anymore. He wants to leave his 9 to 5. He says that I inspire him as I have inspired others as well. And so the journey, it didn't start out smooth, but we are at a much better place now, and we are working together. And our upset, it never lasts long. It was just maybe like 2 days. Our upset wasn't long at all. So because we put God in everything we do, we put God. And he always says, pray about it, Sasha. Go to God and find out what God wants. And I told him, Danny, God says it is time for me to leave. And he says, what can I do? We just have to work with God. So that was how it went.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. That's beautiful. You need that. I'm glad to hear that. You know that you had your husband as your support. You know that person in your corner, and not only that, you end up inspiring him to want to also leave his 9 to 5 too as well. That is extremely beautiful. You know, those persons who are tuning in, I want to thank you for tuning in wherever you're tuning in from. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for being here for our finale. You are listening to Sasha. She's sharing her story of how, God has just did a work in her life, starting from her vision, from her studies right up to her job, into her career, into her business that she has already blossomed and created and is doing extremely well. Now we're coming quite to the close right now, but just before we go, Sasha, I have to ask this question. What is it that you're working on? What is it that you have coming up? If you have anything coming up, I want you to go right ahead and share that with us for those who are tuning in right now who may want to learn more about what you have.
Okay. So as I stated earlier, I started doing group trips. So October we went to Peru, and the next group trip is actually in May next year, May 7 to 11. It is around the Mother's Day period. So for all the queens, I would encourage you to be a part of this trip. Come to Panama with us. Experience the wonders of Panama. It promises to be great. So you can contact me if it is that you want to be a part of this trip. Outside of this group trip, you can always reach out to me for any individual bookings that you might have and want. As I told you, I'm going to start my podcast soon as well. Should start in 2026. And I am a transformational coach. So I do have coaching packages, coaching sessions. So if persons would like to reach out to me for a coaching session, they can email me at the triple T coach at gmail.com. And any travel related inquiries or with travel needs that you have, or you want to start your very own travel business, you can contact me at via WhatsApp at 876-844-2624, or you can email me at sgmftravels@gmail.com. I am also on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads. And you can see my handle there. So on Facebook and Instagram, you can find me at SGMF Travel. On TikTok, I am at SGMF51. And on LinkedIn, it's my name, Sasha Gaye-Mctaggart-Francis. And basically, it's just the initials of my name, the SGMF. My business is the initial of my name, SGMF. So that's where you can find me if it is that you would like to reach out to me.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so, ladies, make sure that you grab that information on the screen. Those of you who want to go to Panama, these are some really good prices here that we're seeing. I'm just going to make sure it's coming up on the screen clear for you so that you can see the cost in there. You have a package for those who are tuning in right now from Jamaica. That package is $910 US. If you are international, that package is $405 US. Remember, it's happening in May, between May 7th to May 11th. This is next year, but payment dates are starting from December this year and into February and April. So make sure that if you do want to be there, that you grab that information. Make sure you reach out as well to Sasha so that she knows that you are interested and you want to be in the room. You don't want to miss the opportunity. If you can do it, go and live your life. Enjoy your life. Why wait when you have it now? Most times we tell ourselves,
Yes.
let's put it down. Let's wait until, until I retire. Let's wait until, no, 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 no. Let's do it now. The time is now. And
The
you have a
time
great
is
opportunity.
now.
That's right. You have a great opportunity right here. So go ahead and grab hold of that. Pastor, just before we go, if there's anything that you may want to share, maybe, something that I didn't get the opportunity to ask you, but as you think on it, you're like, oh my goodness, I wish I had told them this. I want to give you that opportunity to go right ahead and share with them.
Okay, so let me share with you, my quote to say that we are not here to survive, but we are here to thrive. And so live your life not in survival mode, but do what you can to thrive, travel more, laugh more, and live an abundant, free life.
I love it. Well said, well said, well said. I really want to thank you guys for tuning in here. If this is your first time here and you want to learn more about what happens on the Battered Bruised Not Broken, I want to invite you to go right ahead and send us an email. Maybe you have a very powerful story that you want to share. You want to get that opportunity to encourage others as well, how you have been able to overcome in your area, whatever that may be. I want to encourage you to send us that email. That's going to be at queensmindset.qm@gmail.com and let us know that you are interested. If you want to learn more about what happens at Queens Mindset, go right ahead to our website at www.queensmindset.net and make sure that you grab all the information from our site, whatever may be of interest to you, so that you can be a part of the movement and be a part of what is happening at Queen's Mindset. Once again, I really want to thank you for being with us in this season. I want to thank you for tuning in. Despite whatever might have happened along the way, we've had some challenges, as you know, things happen, but guess what? The mission must always prevail. No matter what happens, it must continue, and it must continue, and we have done so. And so I want to thank you guys for tuning in here tonight. If you have missed it from the beginning, don't worry, it's going to be up. You can come back and catch the replay as many times as possible. And if you have not shared this with a friend, a family member, a co-worker, or a next door neighbor, then what are you waiting for? Go right ahead and share, so that they can be in on everything that has been shared across this season. So once again, thank you guys. I look forward to see you back here. Our next season starts next year. That's going to be in March 2026. Stay tuned where we send out the date so you know when it's happening, so that you too can be able to tune in exactly when we start. So thank you so much, Sasha, for ending this with a bang, and thank you guys for tuning in here tonight. Yes, have an amazing night. I will talk to you very soon. Goodbye.
You've seen me battered, bruised, but never broken. Through the fire, hope still spoken. There's a strength inside me that keeps me strong. So I'll keep pushing, I'll keep holding on. Through it all, I won't fall. I've got power, standing tall, battered, bruised, shake out.